Let me tell you about the single best investment most Americans will ever have access to. And almost everyone gets it wrong. It is not a stock. It is not a bond. It is not real estate or gold or cryptocurrency. It is Social Security, specifically the decision of when to claim it. This decision will determine hundreds of thousands of dollars in lifetime income for most people. It will affect whether you run out of money in your 80s or have plenty until your 90s. It will shape the financial security of your spouse if you die first. And yet most people make this decision casually based on fear or impatience or bad advice from people who should know better. I have spent my entire career analyzing investments, looking for opportunities where the math is compelling and the risks are manageable. And I can tell you without hesitation that delaying Social Security is one of the best deals available to most Americans. The guaranteed return is extraordinary. The inflation protection is built in. The longevity insurance is priceless. Today, I am going to explain exactly how Social Security and Medicare work together, why delaying Social Security is almost always the right choice, how to bridge the gap if you retire before you claim, and the specific strategies that can add tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to your lifetime benefits. This is not complicated, but it requires understanding some numbers and resisting some powerful emotional impulses. If you can do both, you will be far ahead of the millions of Americans who leave money on the table every year by claiming too early. Let me start with a story that illustrates why this matters so much. In 2005, I had lunch with a longtime friend named Harold. He was 62 years old, had just retired from a successful career in manufacturing, and was trying to decide when to claim Social Security. His financial advisor had told him to claim immediately. The advisor's reasoning was simple. Take the money now. You never know what might happen. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Harold asked me what I thought. I asked him a few questions first. How is your health? Good. He said his parents had both lived into their late 80s. He exercised regularly, did not smoke, and had no major health issues. Do you need the money to pay your bills? No, he said. He had a pension and savings that could cover his expenses for years. I told Harold that his advisor was giving him terrible advice. I pulled out a napkin and did some quick calculations. If Harold claimed at 62, he would receive about $1,800 per month. If he waited until 70, he would receive about $3,200 per month. That is 78% more every month for the rest of his life, adjusted for inflation. Harold said, but Warren, if I wait until 70, I give up 8 years of payments. That is over $170,000 I would have received. How does waiting make sense? I showed him the math. Yes, he would give up about $170,000 by waiting, but his higher benefit would make up that difference by his early 80s. Every year he lived beyond that, he would be ahead, and the gap would keep growing. If he lived to 90, which was entirely possible given his health and family history, he would receive over $300,000 more by waiting than by claiming early. But the math was even more compelling than that. I asked Harold if he was married. His wife was 3 years younger and in good health. When Harold dies, I explained, his wife will receive his benefit as a survivor benefit if it is higher than her own. By waiting until 70, Harold was not just increasing his own lifetime income. He was increasing the income his wife would receive for the rest of her life after he was gone. Women live longer than men on average. There was a good chance Harold's wife would spend 10 or 15 years as a widow. During those years, the difference between an $1,800 monthly survivor benefit and a $3,200 benefit would be enormous. We were talking about potentially $500,000 in additional lifetime income for the household. Harold was stunned. His financial advisor had never mentioned any of this. The advisor had focused only on Harold's individual situation, ignoring the spousal implications entirely. Harold waited until 70 to claim. He is in his 80s now, still healthy, still collecting that higher benefit. His wife, who is also still living, has the security of knowing that when Harold passes, she will receive a substantial survivor benefit that will support her comfortably for the rest of her life. That conversation on a napkin was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to Harold's family, and the principles I shared with him apply to almost everyone. What struck me most about that conversation was how little Harold knew about his own Social Security options. Here was a successful businessman, someone who had managed multi-million-dollar budgets and made complex decisions throughout his career, and he was about to make a catastrophic financial mistake simply because no one had explained the math to him. This is shockingly common. Social Security is the largest financial asset most Americans will ever have. The present value of lifetime Social Security benefits for a married couple can easily exceed $1 million. Yet people spend more time researching which television to buy than they spend understanding their Social Security options. The financial services industry bears some blame here. They focus on the assets they manage and earn fees from, not on Social Security, which they cannot charge for. But individuals bear responsibility too. This information is available. The Social Security Administration has online calculators. Books have been written. The math is not complicated. People simply do not make the effort to understand it. I am hoping to change that today, at least for those of you watching. Let me explain how Social Security actually works, because most people do not understand the mechanics. Social Security calculates your benefit based on your 35 highest earning years. The more you earn, the higher your benefit, up to a maximum that changes each year. This calculation produces what is called your primary insurance amount, which is the benefit you would receive if you claim at your full retirement age. Full retirement age is not 65 anymore for most people. If you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. If you were born earlier, you're somewhere between 66 and 67, depending on your birth year. Here's where it gets interesting. You can claim Social Security as early as 62 or as late as 70, but the amount you receive depends dramatically on when you claim. You claim at 62, your benefit is permanently reduced by about 30% compared to your full retirement age benefit. If you claim at 67, you get your full benefit. If you wait until 70, your benefit is increased by about 24% compared to your full retirement age benefit. Do the math on that from 62 to 70. Your benefit increases by roughly 77%. That is not a one-time bonus. That is every month for the rest of your life, adjusted annually for inflation. No investment I know of offers a guaranteed return of 8% per year with inflation protection and no risk of loss. That is effectively what you get by delaying Social Security from 62 to 70. And unlike investment returns, which are uncertain, this return is guaranteed by the federal government. Now let me address the objection I hear most often. What if I die young? What if I claim at 62 and live to 95? I will feel foolish for waiting. But what if I wait until 70 and die at 72? I will have given up 8 years of benefits for almost nothing. This objection sounds logical, but reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of how to think about risk. First, you do not know when you will die. Nobody does. You might live to 72, or you might live to 97. Given that uncertainty, you need to plan for the possibility of a long life, not just the possibility of a short one. Running out of money at 85 because you claimed early is a catastrophe. Leaving slightly less to your heirs because you claimed late is not. Second, Social Security is longevity insurance. Its primary purpose is to protect you against the risk of living longer than your savings can support. By claiming early, you are essentially canceling that insurance at the worst possible time, right when you need it most. Third, for married couples, the decision affects 2 lives, not one. Even if you die young, your spouse may live for decades longer. Your claiming decision determines what they will receive for all those years. Fourth, the break. Even analysis that most people do is misleading. Yes, if you claim at 70 and die at 80, you would have been better off claiming at 62, but you do not know when you will die. The relevant question is not what is optimal if I die at a specific age. The relevant question is, what is optimal given the uncertainty about when I will die? When you factor in that uncertainty, delaying almost always wins for people in reasonable health. The expected value of waiting is higher than the expected value of claiming early. And more importantly, waiting protects you against the worst case scenario of a very long life with insufficient income. Let me put this in investment terms that might make it clearer. Imagine I offered you two choices. Option A is a guaranteed income stream that starts immediately but is relatively small. Option B is a guaranteed income stream that starts 8 years later but is 77% larger and grows with inflation. If you are in reasonable health and have any way to bridge those 8 years, option B is clearly superior. You would never accept a 77% pay cut to get paid 8 years earlier. Yet that is exactly what millions of Americans do when they claim Social Security at 62 instead of 70. The insurance companies that sell annuities understand this math perfectly. If you tried to buy an annuity that matched the features of Social Security, inflation, adjusted, guaranteed for life, with survivor benefits, the price would be astronomical. Social Security provides this insurance essentially at cost. There is no profit margin. There is no sales commission. It is the best deal in retirement income, and claiming early throws much of that value away. I've also observed that people who claim early often do so because they want to stop working, and they see Social Security as the key to making that possible. But this conflates two separate decisions. The decision of when to stop working and the decision of when to claim Social Security do not have to be the same. You can retire at 62 and not claim Social Security until 70. You just need a way to fund those 8 years. For many people, that funding can come from retirement savings, part-time work, a working spouse, or some combination. Separating the retirement decision from the claiming decision opens up strategies that most people never consider. Now, let me talk about Medicare, because the decisions around Medicare and Social Security interact in important ways that most people do not understand. Medicare eligibility begins at 65, regardless of when you claim Social Security. This is a crucial point. You do not have to claim Social Security to get Medicare. These are separate programs with separate enrollment rules. When you turn 65, you have a 7-month window to enroll in Medicare, starting 3 months before your birthday month and ending 3 months after. This is called your initial enrollment period. If you miss this window, you may face penalties and gaps in coverage. Medicare has several parts. Part A covers hospital stays and is free for most people who have worked and paid Medicare taxes for at least 10 years. Part B covers doctor visits and outpatient care and requires a monthly premium. Part D covers prescription drugs and also requires a premium. The important interaction with Social Security is this. If you are already receiving Social Security benefits when you turn 65, you will be automatically enrolled in Medicare Parts A and B. The Part B premium will be deducted from your Social Security check. If you are not receiving Social Security when you turn 65 because you are delaying your claim, you need to actively enroll in Medicare yourself. This is where people sometimes make mistakes. They assume that because they are not claiming Social Security, they do not need to do anything about Medicare. Wrong. Medicare enrollment at 65 is essential, regardless of your Social Security claiming decision. There is one exception. If you are still working at 65 and have health insurance through your employer, you may be able to delay Medicare enrollment without penalty. But this requires that your employer have 20 or more employees and that you have credible coverage. If your employer is smaller or your coverage does not qualify, you need to enroll in Medicare at 65. Even if you are still working, the penalties for missing Medicare enrollment can be severe. Your Part B premium can be permanently increased by 10% for each 12-month period you were eligible but not enrolled. If you miss enrollment by 2 years, your premium is 20% higher forever. This adds up to thousands of dollars over a long retirement. Let me be specific about what Medicare covers and what it does not, because this affects your planning significantly. Medicare Part A covers inpatient hospital stays, skilled nursing facility care, hospice, and some home health care. For most people, Part A has no premium because you paid Medicare taxes during your working years. Medicare Part B covers doctor visits, outpatient care, preventive services, and medical equipment. Part B has a monthly premium that varies based on your income. In 2024, the standard premium is about $175 per month, but high earners pay more through something called income-related monthly adjustment amounts. Medicare Part D covers prescription drugs. You choose a Part D plan from private insurers, and premiums vary based on the plan you select. Like Part B, Part D premiums can be higher for high income beneficiaries. Original Medicare, Parts A and B, leave significant gaps in coverage. It does not cover dental, vision, or hearing. It does not cover long-term care. It has deductibles and coinsurance that can add up quickly during a serious illness. To fill these gaps, many people purchase Medicare supplement insurance, also called Medigap policies. These are standardized plans labeled A through N that cover some or all of the costs that original Medicare does not pay. Alternatively, you can choose Medicare Advantage, also called Part C. These are private insurance plans that combine Parts A, B, and usually D into a single plan. They often include additional benefits like dental and vision, but they also have restrictions like limited provider networks that original Medicare does not have. The choice between original Medicare with a supplement and Medicare Advantage is complex and depends on your specific circumstances. The important point for our purposes is that you need to make these choices around age 65, and you need to budget for premiums and out-of-pocket costs that Medicare does not cover. So the strategy for most people is clear. Delay Social Security as long as possible, ideally to 70, to maximize your guaranteed lifetime income, but enroll in Medicare at 65 to avoid penalties and ensure you have health coverage. This creates a potential gap. If you retire before 65 and delay Social Security until 70, how do you pay for health insurance and living expenses during those years? Let me share some strategies for bridging this gap. The first strategy is to keep working, at least part-time. If you can earn enough to cover your basic expenses without touching your retirement savings or claiming Social Security, you get the best of all worlds. Your savings continue to grow. Your Social Security benefit continues to increase. And you may have access to employer health insurance. Even part-time work makes a difference. If you can cover half your expenses with part-time income, you only need to draw half as much from savings. This extends the life of your portfolio and gives Social Security more time to grow. The second strategy is to use your retirement savings strategically. If you have money in 401k accounts or IRAs, this is exactly what it is for. Draw from these accounts to bridge the gap between retirement and Social Security claiming. Many people resist this strategy because it feels like they are depleting their savings. But think about what you are actually doing. You are trading taxable retirement account withdrawals for higher guaranteed Social Security income. In most cases, this is an excellent trade. Consider the math. If you withdraw $50,000 per year from your IRA for 5 years to delay Social Security from 65 to 70, you spend $250,000. But your Social Security benefit might be $500 per month higher for delaying those 5 years. Over a 25-year retirement, that is $150,000 in additional income, more than covering what you withdrew. And that is before considering inflation adjustments. There's another advantage to this strategy that most people miss. IRA withdrawals in your 60s, while you have no Social Security income, may be taxed at a lower rate than withdrawals later when you have Social Security. required minimum distributions, and other income stacking up by doing withdrawals during the low-income years, you are essentially doing tax arbitrage, taking money out when your rate is low to avoid taking it out later when your rate is high. You can also use these years to do Roth conversions, converting traditional IRA money to Roth IRA money while your income is low means paying taxes at a low rate and then having tax-free withdrawals later. This can save tens of thousands of dollars over a retirement. The point is that the years between retirement and Social Security claiming are not a problem to be endured. They are an opportunity to be exploited for tax efficiency. Smart planning during these years can dramatically improve your lifetime after-tax income. The third strategy is to use a Social Security bridge. Some financial products allow you to receive payments that mimic Social Security benefits until your actual benefits begin. These are essentially loans against your future Social Security income. I am generally cautious about financial products because they often come with high fees and hidden costs. But for some people, a Social Security bridge can make sense if it allows them to delay claiming while maintaining their standard of living. The fourth strategy involves spousal coordination. If you are married and both spouses are eligible for Social Security, you can coordinate your claiming strategies to maximize household income. The general principle is that the higher earner should delay as long as possible, while the lower earner might claim earlier. This is because the higher earner's benefit will likely become the survivor benefit for the remaining spouse. Maximizing that benefit provides the best protection for the surviving spouse. For example, imagine a couple where the husband's benefit at 70 would be $3,000 per month and the wife's benefit at 70 would be $1,500. The husband should almost certainly delay until 70 to maximize both his retirement benefit and the eventual survivor benefit for his wife. The wife might claim at her full retirement age or even earlier, providing household income while the husband's benefit continues to grow. When the husband claims at 70, the household will have both benefits, and when the husband dies, the wife will receive his higher benefit as a survivor benefit. This coordination can add tens of thousands of dollars to lifetime household income compared to both spouses claiming at the same age. Let me talk about some common mistakes I see people make with Social Security and Medicare. The first mistake is claiming Social Security because you are afraid it will not be there. I hear this constantly. People say they are claiming early because they do not trust the government, because they think Social Security will go bankrupt, because they want to get their money before it runs out. This fear is understandable but misguided. Social Security is not going to disappear. It may be modified, benefits might be slightly reduced for future retirees. The retirement age might increase. But for people who are currently in their 50s, 60s, or 70s, your benefits are essentially guaranteed, even in the worst case scenario where Congress does nothing and the trust fund runs out around 2033. Benefits would not go to zero. Ongoing payroll taxes would still fund about 75 to 80% of scheduled benefits, and it is almost inconceivable that Congress would allow benefits to be cut for people already receiving them or about to receive them. The political consequences would be catastrophic. Do not make a decision that costs you hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime based on a fear that is almost certainly not going to materialize. The second mistake is claiming Social Security because your financial advisor tells you to. Many financial advisors have a conflict of interest here. If your money stays in your investment accounts rather than being supplemented by Social Security, the advisor continues to collect fees on that money. If you claim Social Security and reduce your withdrawals from investment accounts, the advisor earns less. I am not saying all advisors are acting in bad faith. Many simply do not understand the math of Social Security optimization. They learned outdated rules of thumb and have never questioned them. But the result is the same: bad advice that costs you money. Do your own analysis or find an advisor who specializes in Social Security optimization and does not have a financial interest in your claiming decision. The third mistake is thinking of Social Security as an investment to be optimized for return rather than as insurance to be optimized for protection. The break-even analyses that people do miss the point. Social Security is not primarily about maximizing expected return. It is about protecting against the risk of living longer than your money. If you knew exactly when you would die, you could calculate the optimal claiming age precisely, but you do not know. Given that uncertainty, the value of Social Security comes from its insurance properties, the guaranteed income for life no matter how long you live. When you think about it as insurance rather than investment, the logic of delaying becomes clearer. You are paying a premium in the form of foregone benefits during your 60s to get better insurance against longevity risk. That premium is almost always worth paying. The fourth mistake is ignoring the tax implications. Social Security benefits are taxed differently than other income, depending on your total income. 0 to 85% of your Social Security benefits may be taxable. This creates opportunities for tax planning. If you have years with low income, perhaps between retirement and claiming Social Security, you can do Roth conversions at low tax rates. You can realize capital gains while your income is low. You can structure your income to minimize the taxation of your eventual Social Security benefits. These strategies can save tens of thousands of dollars in taxes over a retirement, but they require planning before you claim Social Security, not after. Once you are locked into a claiming strategy, your flexibility is reduced. The fifth mistake is not understanding how Social Security interacts with other income sources. If you have a pension, if you have rental income, if you have required minimum distributions from retirement accounts, all of these affect your Social Security strategy. For example, if you have a generous pension that covers your basic expenses, you have even more flexibility to delay Social Security. You do not need the income immediately. You can afford to wait for the higher benefit. Conversely, if you have large required minimum distributions starting at 73, you need to think about how those distributions will interact with Social Security benefits for tax purposes. You might want to do Roth conversions before Social Security and RMDs begin, creating a more tax-efficient retirement income structure. Let me summarize the key principles for Social Security and Medicare decisions. First, delay Social Security as long as you can reasonably afford to, ideally until 70. The guaranteed return is extraordinary, and the protection against longevity risk is priceless. Second, enroll in Medicare at 65, regardless of when you claim Social Security. Missing Medicare enrollment can result in permanent premium increases. Third, if you retire before 70, have a plan for bridging the gap. This might involve part-time work, strategic withdrawals from retirement accounts, spousal coordination, or some combination. Fourth, if you are married, coordinate your claiming strategies to maximize household lifetime income, paying particular attention to survivor benefits. Fifth, ignore the fear mongering about Social Security going bankrupt. Your benefits are secure. Make decisions based on math, not anxiety. 6, do your own analysis or find an advisor without a conflict of interest. Many financial advisors give bad Social Security advice because they do not understand the math or because they benefit from your money staying in accounts they manage. Seventh, think about Social Security as insurance against longevity risk, not as an investment to be optimized for return. The insurance value of delaying is enormous. Eighth, consider the tax implications of your claiming decision. Strategic tax planning in the years before and after claiming can save significant money. I want to close with a thought about what this all means in the context of a secure retirement. Social Security was never meant to be your only source of retirement income. It was designed as a foundation, a floor of guaranteed income on which you could build with savings and investments. But for many Americans, Social Security will be their largest source of retirement income. Getting this decision right is not a minor optimization. It is a decision that will shape every year of their retirement. The math strongly favors delaying for most people. An 8% guaranteed return with inflation protection does not exist anywhere else in the financial world. Claiming early because of impatience or fear or bad advice is one of the most expensive mistakes Americans routinely make. I have spent my career looking for value for situations where the expected return exceeds the risk by a wide margin. Social Security delay is exactly that kind of opportunity. It is hiding in plain sight, available to almost everyone, and most people walk right past it. Do not be one of them. Do the math. Understand the trade-offs. Make a decision based on analysis rather than emotion. Your future self, and possibly your surviving spouse, will thank you for the extra income that comes from making this decision correctly. It might be the most valuable financial decision you ever make. I want to leave you with one final thought about how to approach this decision. When you are 62 and the option to claim Social Security becomes available, there will be a temptation to take it. The money is right there. You've been paying into the system for decades. It feels like your money, and you want it. Resist the temptation. Ask yourself what 65-year-old you would want, what 70-year-old you would want, what 85-year-old you would want. Think about your spouse and what they would want if you die first. When you extend your time horizon beyond the immediate gratification of getting a check today, the math becomes clear. Delaying is almost always the right choice for people in reasonable health with any ability to bridge the gap. I have made a career of finding investments where the math works overwhelmingly in my favor. Social Security delay is that kind of investment, available to almost everyone, requiring no expertise to execute, guaranteed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. Do not walk past this opportunity. Do not leave hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table because of impatience or fear or bad advice. Do the math. Make the smart choice. Your retirement will be better for it. There is one more consideration I want to leave you with. The decision about when to claim Social Security is not just a financial decision. It is a decision about how you want to live the later chapters of your life. With higher monthly income from delayed claiming, you have more options. You can afford better health care. You can help family members who need it. You can travel or pursue interests that require money. You can be generous. You can handle emergencies without panic. With lower monthly income from early claiming, your options narrow. Every unexpected expense becomes a crisis. Every price increase in groceries or utilities or health care feels like a squeeze. You become dependent on others or on programs you would rather not need. I have watched people navigate their 70s, 80s, and 90s. The ones who are happiest and most secure are almost always the ones who prioritize sustainable income over immediate gratification. They delayed their Social Security. They managed their health care wisely. They made the patient choices that their future selves would thank them for. Be one of those people. Think about who you will be at 85 or 90. Make decisions that person will be grateful for. The math supports patience. The wisdom supports patience. And when you are old and still financially secure, you will understand why this decision mattered so much.